It's time to let go. This time for real. Have you ever found that no matter how hard you try, you can't cut the emotional tie that binds you to someone? That person seems to have settled in your mind, as if they live there, occupying your thoughts, absorbing your energy, and affecting how you feel, how you see the world, and even how you see yourself. You may have shared intense, significant moments with them, the kind that leave a mark, and even though you already suspect, or even know for sure, that this bond is hurting you, that it is preventing you from moving forward, every little contact or simple memory stirs you up inside again. You try again and again, internal promises, firm decisions, prolonged silences. But just seeing a photo, reading an old message, or hearing a song that reminds you of them is enough for everything to crumble like a house of cards. Suddenly, you find yourself caught up again in that emotional whirlwind you swore you would escape. As if you were a hostage of your own mind. Does this sound familiar? Do you feel that even though you truly want to, something inside you prevents you from fully letting go? If you are going through something like this, I want you to know that you are not alone. Many people live this type of bond in silence, trying to untie those invisible knots that bind them to someone who should no longer have so much power over their emotions. Today we are going to walk together towards that turning point. We are going to explore what you need to know and what you need to feel so that you can truly start to let go. So that detachment is not just an attempt, but a transformation. So that your inner peace stops being a distant goal and begins to be your new reality. Why is it so hard to let go of someone emotionally? When you know it's bad for you, but still can't leave. Surely, if you analyze it, you've already noticed that this relationship generates more tension than calm. It drains you more than it nourishes you. Deep down, you know that remaining emotionally tied to that person robs you of clarity, energy, and well-being. And yet, there you are, connected, hooked, as if something stronger than you prevents you from cutting that invisible bond. So, what is really holding you back? Because it's not just about missing someone or feeling nostalgic. The root of emotional attachment often lies much deeper, anchored in past wounds, internal voids, and unresolved needs that you didn't even know were still active. From Jung's perspective, these voids and wounds may be related to our shadow, those aspects of ourselves that we do not recognize or accept. The hidden reasons for attachment, what you don't see but controls you. Deep within you, when you connect with someone intensely, there is often an emotional story that gives meaning to that bond. It is not just affection or habit. Many times it is an unconscious need for that person to cover a part of you that feels incomplete. As if you had assigned, unintentionally, the role of emotional lifeguard, refuge, or validation to them. This concept of the unconscious, so explored by Jung, invites us to recognize that our attachments are not always rational, but are often guided by impulses and needs of which we are not fully aware. This pattern is more common than you might think, and its roots often lie in your emotional biography, moments when you felt rejected, alone, unseen, or insecure. Those traces remain alive within you and seek resolution through current bonds. So, it is not just the person that ties you, it is the hope that something still painful will heal with them. And there begins a complicated dynamic. You stop seeing the other as they truly are, and you start seeing them as the remedy for something of yours, as if only by being with that person could you feel complete, calm, or secure. But that form of attachment does not free, it traps, because it leads you to build an idealized image of the relationship. You start to think that only with that person can you be happy, that no one else can give you the same, that if you lose them, you also lose something essential of yourself. And that is not love, it is camouflaged emotional dependence. Jung also taught us about the importance of individuation, the process of becoming complete and authentic individuals. Sometimes, excessive attachment to another person can be an obstacle on this path. The trap of projection and the power of self-deception. Here comes a very important concept. Projection. Do you know what it is? This concept of projection, explored in depth by Jung, shows us how you place in others aspects that actually belong to you, your desires, your insecurities, your shortcomings. You attribute virtues that you long to have, or feelings that you need to experience. And thus, that person unwittingly becomes a screen onto which you project everything that you lack inside. That's why it's so hard to let go. Because in your mind, leaving that person feels like losing a part of yourself. But the truth is that that part never belonged to the other. It was always yours. It's just that you didn't know how to access it without using the other as an intermediary. Another obstacle adds to this: self-deception. Your mind starts to tell you a story, that this relationship is unique, that without it, there is no possible future, that this person is your other half, your everything, your soulmate. And without realizing it, you cling to a fantasy that only feeds your dependency. The most ironic thing is that, while you believe you need that person to be happy, the attachment itself keeps you in a constant state of anxiety, doubt, and frustration. It's a vicious circle. You feel good when everything is going well, but when something cools off, when there is distance or indifference, the drop is immediate and profound, as if your emotions were directly connected to that relationship, with no room to breathe. But here comes the truth that can change everything. The power of how you feel is not outside of you. It is within. And to reclaim it, the first step is not to let go of the other person, but to understand what they represent for you, a path to emotional freedom. Today I want to propose a change of approach. Instead of forcing yourself to let go, to cut it off at the root, or to fight against what you feel, ask yourself these questions honestly and without judgment. What am I really looking for in this person? What part of me do I feel only activates when I am with her? What lack am I trying to fill through this bond? These questions are not comfortable, but they are powerful, because they help you look inward instead of continuing to wait for something outside to save you. And that inward look is the beginning of true detachment, a detachment that does not mean indifference or coldness, but freedom, freedom to love without suffering, to let go without breaking, to live without depending. How your past shapes the attachments you have today. When the history you lived still decides how you love. Emotional attachment is something deeply human. It is part of who we are, social, sensitive beings seeking connection, refuge, and meaning in our relationships. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, many of our healthiest relationships are based on that genuine desire to be close to those we love. But there are times when that attachment stops being a nourishing bond and transforms into an invisible chain that tightens. When you go from freely choosing someone to feeling that you need them to feel like yourself, that is when attachment becomes dependency, and that doesn't happen by chance. There is a story behind it. The impact of childhood on your adult relationships. It all starts in the early years of your life. From a young age, you seek something essential in the adults around you: care, presence, affection, recognition. That search is in your nature. It's not just about love, it's about emotional survival. You learned, almost without realizing it, to link your sense of security and worth to how others treated you. If during that time you felt stability, acceptance, and affection, it is likely that you developed a healthier way of relating. But if what you experienced was rejection, emotional absence, constant criticism, or abandonment, whether physical or emotional, it is very likely that you internalize the idea that you need to strive to be loved, or that only if someone validates you, then you are worthy. Those messages, even if you don't remember them literally, remain alive in your emotional system. And it is from there that you build your connections today. The search for belonging can become a trap. Since then, you carry within you a very deep impulse to feel that you belong to something, that someone sees you and chooses you, that there is a place in the world where you can rest emotionally. And of course, when a person appears in your life and gives you a bit of what you long for, it's easy to cling tightly. It's as if that person were the answer to all those questions you've been asking yourself without realizing it. Am I enough? Am I worthy of love? Can I be loved unconditionally? That need for belonging, when not well integrated, can work against you, because you start to build your sense of identity around how the other sees you, how they respond to you, whether they accept or reject you. And without realizing it, you disconnect from yourself. You stop being you to become what you think the other needs you to be in order not to lose that bond. When your worth is measured by the presence of another. One of the clearest signs that attachment has become unhealthy is when you start to feel that without that person, you are nobody. That only with their attention or love can you be at peace with yourself. And this, although it hurts to admit, is a reflection of wounds that have not been healed. It's not that the person has magical power over you. It's that, unintentionally, you have given them the role of filling what you yourself have not learned to care for within you. And the hardest part is that the more you depend on someone to feel valuable, the more fear you have of losing them. That fear turns into anxiety, into a constant need to ensure that everything is okay, into difficulty setting boundaries, into silences that scream, and thus, the bond stops being a free space and becomes an emotional prison. A look inward. Your story does not condemn you. None of this means that you are broken or that you cannot have healthy relationships. What it means is that you need to understand your emotional history, because your current bonds are often mirrors of your past. What you did not heal, you repeat. What you did not express, you project. But you also have an enormous capacity for transformation. Recognizing what brought you here is not an act of weakness. It is the first step towards your freedom. When you understand that excessive attachment does not arise from the other person, but from what you are seeking in them, then you regain power. The power to begin giving yourself what you previously sought outside. And from that place, relationships change. They are no longer places where you get lost, but spaces where you can share yourself without ceasing to be you. When the other becomes a mirror. Projection, internal voids, and the illusion of complete love. There are attachments that hurt. Not because loving is wrong, but because what we call love is often something else. A silent search for completeness, a way to cover old wounds, an unconscious attempt to heal something we do not fully understand. One of the factors that most reinforce these difficult-to-let-go bonds is projection. We do not see the person as they are, but as we need to see them. We assign virtues, qualities, or roles that speak more about us than about them. Idealization, loving someone who doesn't exist. When you are emotionally trapped in a relationship, it is common to idealize the other person. You see them in a light that hides their shadows. Their mistakes are justified, their absences are minimized, and every gesture of affection becomes almost sacred. This is not real love. It is emotional need dressed up. Jung warned us about the danger of projecting our own expectations and desires onto others, creating an idealized image that will inevitably disappoint us. Idealization creates a figure that seems irreplaceable. And of course, how are you going to let go of someone you believe is the only one who has understood you, or the only person with whom you can be yourself? But the truth is that many times we are not seeing the person, but the image we have constructed of them. And the more we idealize, the more we lose touch with the reality of the bond. It hurts more to let it go. Jung explained that projection occurs when we, unconsciously, attribute to other people characteristics of ourselves that we do not want to recognize. Often, these are characteristics we do not like about ourselves or do not want to accept. Old wounds, present bonds. Now, why do we need someone so much? Many times the reason lies in what we have experienced. If at some point in your life someone important left, rejected you, or simply was not there when you needed them, it is normal to now seek relationships that seem guaranteed, secure, stable. You want what you did not have. And then someone appears who, at first, seems to give you that security. And that's where you cling. But you are not just holding on to the person. You are holding on to the unconscious promise that this time they will not abandon you. The problem is that when that bond starts to fail, you not only feel the pain of the present, but the fear and pain of the past are also activated. Everything gets mixed up. That's why letting go feels so unbearable. It is not just this loss. It is all the previous ones too. Emotional scripts. We repeat unknowingly. Each person has their own emotional patterns. Jung also explored how these unconscious patterns, often rooted in childhood, influence our adult relationships. If you associated love with struggle, attention with sacrifice, or affection with anxiety, it is likely that you are still following that same script without realizing it. And so, even though it hurts, you remain in relationships that feel familiar, even if they are harmful. Because emotional chaos is sometimes more familiar than calm. Learning to identify these patterns is not easy, but when you do, something changes. You can start to ask yourself, is what I feel love, or is it a reflection of something I have not yet healed? The thirst to be seen, validation, and personal value. Another deep reason why we cling is the search for validation. We want to feel that we matter, that someone chooses us, that we are valuable. And if we haven't learned to give ourselves that value internally, we desperately seek it in others. Every message, every "I miss you," every sign of affection becomes food for our self-esteem. The problem is that if you only feel valuable when someone else confirms it, you are relinquishing your emotional power, and your stability begins to depend on something you cannot control, the other person's attitude. Memories also cling. Sometimes it's not the person that is hard to let go of, but everything you experienced with them. You shared moments, projects, intimacy. That person was part of your story, and when you let them go, you feel like you are also letting go of a part of yourself. This is completely human. You are not crazy or broken. It is the emotional memory that speaks, not just the heart. But here is something important. You can take those memories with you. You don't need to stay tied to a relationship that no longer serves you just because it was significant. The story doesn't get erased. What you can do is reframe it, be grateful for it, and keep moving forward. Letting go is not stopping to love, it's learning to choose yourself. Understanding why you cling is an act of honesty with yourself. It is not weakness, it is clarity. When you understand that it is not just the person, but what they represent, security, value, belonging, then you can begin to work on building that within yourself. Letting go does not mean you become cold or indifferent. It means you stop needing the other to feel complete. You start to love yourself enough not to depend on anyone else to validate your existence. And from there, from that new relationship with yourself, you will be able to create healthier, freer, more genuine connections. The cycle of self-deception, when we confuse need with love. Letting go is not always a matter of will. Sometimes we want to let go. We know that staying hurts us, but something inside us clings on. Emotional detachment is not simply distancing ourselves from someone. It is much more than that. It is a deep, almost subterranean process that confronts us with the invisible roots of our emotions. This introspective process, fostered by Jung, allows us to unravel the layers of our unconscious and discover the true motivations behind our attachments. True detachment begins when we dare to face what binds us to that person. What part of ourselves have we projected onto them? What void are we trying to fill through the other? These questions can hurt, but they also have the power to free us. Believing that the other is the answer, the trap of idealization. Many times we are not in love with the person, but with the story we tell ourselves about them. We turn them into someone special, unique, irreplaceable. We attribute qualities that we actually long for in ourselves. We think that this person gives us security, direction, or worth, when in reality what they do is activate something we have not learned to build within ourselves. This idealization works like an emotional mirage. It makes us believe that without that person, we are not enough, and that is where dependency is born. But when we begin to see clearly, we understand that it is not the other who has that power, but that we were the ones who gave it to them. The key question is not, how do I let him, her go? But what part of me am I seeking in him or her? Dismantling the pedestal, seeing the other without the filter of lack. The next step towards emotional detachment is to break the idealized image of the other, not with anger or disdain, but with truth. Stop seeing the person as an almost magical figure, and start seeing them as a human being with their own contradictions, shadows, and limitations. This does not mean stopping valuing what was beautiful, but accepting that this person is not the only one capable of providing us with what we need, that many of the qualities we admire in them also exist in us, even if we have not cultivated them yet. By breaking the idealization, we free the other from a role that never belonged to them, and ourselves from the fantasy that someone else can complete us. Returning home, remembering who you are without the other. When we are emotionally attached, we lose sight of our own essence. We become an extension of the relationship. Our decisions, emotions, and even our plans start to revolve around the other person. That's why one of the most powerful acts of detachment is returning to ourselves, remembering who we were before the bond, or even discovering who we truly are now, without the need to define ourselves through someone else. This can start with small acts, writing about how we feel, reclaiming a forgotten hobby, reconnecting with people who nourish us, exploring new passions, or simply sitting in silence to listen to ourselves without judgment. Detachment is also a reunion. Self-compassion. It is not weak to feel, but rather to abandon oneself. On this journey, there will be days when you wonder why it is so hard to let go. You may feel guilt for having endured too much, shame for having needed so much, anger at yourself for not having prioritized yourself earlier. But here comes something fundamental: self-compassion. Detaching does not mean hardening or becoming cold. It means allowing yourself to feel without getting trapped. It means being gentle with yourself when you feel fragile. Giving yourself permission to cry, doubt, move forward and backward without judging yourself. Every step you take towards your emotional freedom is a victory, even if it is not visible from the outside. Loneliness. It is not absence. It is space for you. Many fear loneliness as if it were a sign of failure. But in reality, learning to be alone is one of the most revolutionary acts you can do. It is not about resigning yourself, but discovering that there is a very deep peace in being with yourself, in silence, without needing another to feel complete. Chosen loneliness can become a sanctuary, a space to listen to yourself, to know yourself, and to build the most authentic version of yourself. And from there, from that regained integrity, you will be able to choose relationships not from need, but from freedom. Techniques to strengthen emotional independence. A path to freedom. Emotional independence is a journey, one that requires patience and a series of conscious steps. It is true that it can take time, but every effort you put into this process brings you closer to a fuller and more balanced life. As soon as you stop projecting onto others what you need, you free yourself from idealization and begin to find peace within yourself. You realize that detachment is not a loss, but a gain. It is a new relationship with yourself, an opportunity to experience love in a healthier and more authentic way. Now that we have understood the roots of attachment and how it can affect our emotional peace, let's explore some practical solutions. Emotional detachment does not happen overnight, but with the right strategies, you can effectively begin this process and move towards true emotional independence. 1. Knowing yourself. The first step to emotionally letting go is to know yourself. Often, we cling to other people because we project onto them what we believe we lack, what we feel we cannot find within ourselves. That's why it's essential to take some time to reflect on what you are truly seeking in that relationship. One of the most effective ways to start this process is through reflective writing. Grab a notebook and write about your thoughts, emotions, and expectations towards that person. Ask yourself, what do you really need from this relationship? Is it love that you feel? Or is there something more behind this attachment? By putting your feelings into writing, you may discover patterns and needs that you hadn't identified before. This will allow you to see which areas of your life need more attention and how you can meet those needs independently without relying on anyone else. It's like taking an emotional inventory where you become aware of what is really at stake. By better understanding what you are looking for in the other person, it will be easier for you to recognize the voids that you can fill by yourself without needing someone else to do it for you. 2. Strengthen your emotional independence. The second step is to strengthen your emotional independence. This does not mean that you should distance yourself from others or close your heart, but rather learn to enjoy your own company and find satisfaction in your life without it depending on others. How can you do this? Start by dedicating time to activities that make you feel good about yourself and help you grow. Look for hobbies or interests that you have set aside, set personal goals, and cultivate habits that make you feel good physically and emotionally, such as exercise, meditation, or practicing a new skill. Remember that every moment of connection with yourself is a reminder that you are a complete person on your own. As you become more emotionally independent, you will realize that you do not need to cling to another person to feel valuable. The inner peace you seek is not in anyone else. It is within you. 3. Deep self-knowledge. Techniques to connect with your emotions. The third step is to use self-knowledge tools that allow you to connect with your deepest emotions. In addition to reflective writing, there are other powerful practices that will help you better understand your feelings and desires. One of these tools used in Jungian psychology is dream analysis. Dream analysis often serves as a window to the unconscious and can reveal emotional patterns that you may not recognize in your daily life. Keeping a dream journal and analyzing it can provide you with a clearer perspective on your attachments and relationships. It will help you uncover the deeper layers of your emotions, giving you a more complete view of what truly moves you. Another powerful technique is visualization, or Jung's active imagination. Imagine completely letting go of that emotional attachment. Visualize your life without depending on that person. Detail it in your mind. How would you feel? What activities would you enjoy? How would you see yourself, happy and whole, without the other person playing a determining role in your well-being? This practice helps you reaffirm in your mind that it is possible to live a fulfilling life without your emotions being tied to another person. 4. Acceptance and self-compassion. Keys to healthy detachment. The fourth step is to accept what you feel and practice self-compassion. Emotional detachment is not a linear process. There will be moments of doubt, frustration, and even fear of not making the right decision. It is normal to face ups and downs throughout this process. That's why it's essential to be kind to yourself. Remember that this is a unique journey for each person. There is no exact time frame or correct way to achieve detachment. Self-compassion involves being patient with yourself and allowing yourself to feel without judgment. If you ever feel vulnerable or experience a setback, instead of punishing yourself, try to see those moments as opportunities for growth. They are lessons that teach you to be stronger and more self-aware. You can practice self-compassion in various ways, such as through meditation, mindful breathing, or simply speaking to yourself with tenderness. Remind yourself that every step you take towards detachment is a victory. Detachment is not an act of coldness, but of self-love. By emotionally letting go, you are showing that you value yourself enough to prioritize your emotional well-being. 5. Peace in solitude, a space for self-discovery. The fifth step is learning to find peace in solitude. This does not mean that you should be alone all the time, but rather that you need to learn to be okay with yourself without depending on the presence of others to feel complete. Solitude is not a void. It is an opportunity to nurture yourself and reconnect with what truly matters to you. By learning to be at peace with yourself, without clinging to relationships, out of fear of loneliness, you open yourself up to a richer and more meaningful life. And when you allow yourself to experience solitude as a space for growth, you will discover that you have more strength than you thought to live fully, regardless of what happens in your relationships. 6. How to set healthy boundaries to regain control of your emotional life. The sixth step to achieving emotional independence is to establish healthy boundaries, both with others and with yourself. Boundaries act as a protective barrier for your well-being, helping you prevent emotions from overflowing or becoming too overwhelming. These boundaries will allow you to regain control of your life and will help you heal and grow emotionally. Start by setting clear boundaries regarding the time and energy you dedicate to thinking about that person or maintaining contact with them, especially if you are still in communication. For example, you might decide to reduce the number of times you check their social media or limit conversations about the relationship with close friends. These small changes will allow you to focus more on yourself and gradually reduce the intensity of that emotional attachment. It is not necessary to cut off contact completely, but establishing these barriers will give you the necessary space to heal and strengthen your inner self. 7. Practice gratitude and live in the here and now. And finally, the last step is to practice gratitude and learn to focus on the present. Often, emotional attachment arises because we are too focused on the past or an idealized future. We remember happy moments, or we imagine how things could have been if circumstances were different. This type of thinking feeds attachment and makes the process of detachment difficult. One of the most effective strategies to counteract this is to practice gratitude for the present moment. Instead of getting stuck in what was or what could have been, focus on what you have now and who you are. This will help you live in the present and let go of the emotional dependency that arises from memories or future expectations. A simple yet powerful technique is to write down 3 things you are grateful for each day. They can be small details, like a moment of tranquility or an achievement during the day. Gratitude allows you to see the abundance that already exists in your life and helps you stop seeking satisfaction in other people or in an idealized future. The process of emotional detachment is not easy or quick, but it is profoundly liberating. By following these steps and applying these techniques, you will not only move closer to emotional independence, but also begin to live a more authentic and balanced life. It is a journey of self-discovery and personal growth that, although challenging, will allow you to experience love and relationships from a place of internal security without dependency. Emotional detachment is not a way to reject love or relationships, but a way to free oneself from suffering and reconnect with oneself. It is not about forgetting, but about healing, growing, and moving towards a more balanced future. Remember that every step you take, no matter how small, will lead you to a place of greater peace and autonomy. Keep working on yourself and your emotional well-being. In the end, you will be able to find the balance you seek within yourself and not outside of yourself. Final reflection: finding inner peace through detachment. Today we have not only talked about detachment, but we have also delved into the transformative power of returning to yourself. Detachment is not an act of rejection towards love, nor a sign of emotional coldness. On the contrary, it is an act of courage and respect for your well-being. It is recognizing that, although a person may have been fundamental in your life, your inner peace and essence are solely your responsibility and cannot depend on anyone else. Imagine what it would mean for you to regain that control. Visualize for a moment waking up every morning feeling whole, without dragging the weight of unrequited love or memories that no longer bring anything positive. Detachment allows you to free up space in your mind and heart, creating room for personal growth, to accept new opportunities, and, above all, to cultivate more balanced relationships, starting with the most important of all, the relationship you have with yourself. This process of emotional detachment is an invitation to freedom. It is not about being alone, but about the freedom to choose who to share your life with, without feeling tied down or dependent. It is an act of saying, I appreciate what I experienced, but now I am ready to move forward and create something new. Every step you take towards detachment is an affirmation of self-trust, a sign that you know you are capable of finding happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction on your own. If you feel that today is the day to let go of something that no longer benefits you, take that first step. It may be difficult. Sometimes it may seem like you have no strength, but trust that within you there is a tremendous force of transformation and healing. Just like a wound that heals over time, detachment is a process in which you will discover that you are not losing another person, but reclaiming your own power and emotional space. Allow yourself to free yourself from others' expectations, from past loves, and from everything that limits you. You have the right to be happy and deserve to live in peace. This journey towards detachment is not a goodbye to feelings, but a hello to the most authentic and powerful version of yourself. The message is clear. Take that first step towards a life of emotional well-being. Do not look back with regret. Look forward with hope. The best thing you can do for yourself is to let go of what no longer serves you and embrace the self-love that awaits you with every decision you make to let go. If this video has inspired or helped you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could also benefit. Every little gesture counts on this journey towards a life of emotional freedom.